Hi, I'm Patty McGarrahan from the Mind's Eye, and I'm here today with Miss Daisy, and she's worked for me for 23 years doing readings, and we wanted to talk a little bit about, she and I did a wellness retreat in North Kingston this fall, and we'd love to talk about it because we're figuring it's going to become a little more of a regular thing, trying to do them once in a while. And in this, if anybody has any suggestions of anything they would want in one of those retreats, I would love to hear any suggestions. But in the meantime, Miss Daisy.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Yes, yes. So one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is we had talked about doing this retreat. We were going to do one long distance, but discovered on an island, but discovered we forgot one thing. Thank God Miss Daisy asked about it. There was no real place if the weather was bad to actually do it. So we had great plans.
Right.
So we did a local one, and it was so much fun.
It really was. It was a great day.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, the people were so excited about it. So it was definitely a lot of things involved. So you wrote up a beautiful write-up about it for the wellness, which began and made it very popular to begin with. And want to talk about a few of the things that we did during it?
Yeah, well, it was really nice because I work with one-on-one a lot, so it was.
Patty tries to get her in groups,
yeah,
whether
she
she
tries
likes
to
it or
get me
not.
out of my comfort zone, get her out of that reading room once in a while. So I thought about it, and I thought it would be really fun to have a little more time and to have the whole day. And because sometimes you just get going, and if it's a quick workshop or something, because you'll do the like an hour or two.
Yep.
So I was like, oh, let's plan a whole day. We can really have people enjoy being around other people, like-minded souls. And somebody was telling me that because if you are really interested in spiritual studies and you're trying to just develop your intuitive talents, and sometimes when you're talking about it, people, you never know what kind of reaction you're going to get. Like somebody might be kind of like, they might make fun of you, and so I had a couple gals tell me that they were so excited to spend the day with people that they could just let it fly. They didn't have to worry about, oh, is somebody going to be like, oh, I don't believe in that, or I don't understand that, or so people were just. I got a lot of great feedback that it was so nice just to be in a community of people, having those connections, having those interactions, and know that everybody's there is also really interested, and enthusiastic, and excited, and so it was just really nice to have those connections. Because like during the pandemic, people got so used to being isolated or being alone, and really we're here a lot of times in our learning down here and our journeys through life. We'll have all these little contracts that we make with people before we incarnate, like we're going to learn from and with others, and all that was taken away. So now that I'm seeing people like making those connections again and learning what they wrote in to learn about, and it's just so wonderful. It's fabulous to see people getting out there, communicating, making those connections, getting excited again, and just to sit back and watch the energy flow. And when we had people partnered up and they were working one-on-one, and just to see their expressions, and they were so excited when they were doing little mini readings and they were telling somebody something, and the person's like, wow, how would you know that? I just met you this morning. So it was just so wonderful to see everybody connecting and learning, and it was just a room filled with love and acceptance and connections, and just a wonderful, wonderful experience. I'm so glad we did it.
I am too. And with the first almost 15 years or 13 years or whatever that we had the Mind's Eye, we were hidden up in a corner because my work situation, I had the son of the owner of the business that I worked for that would be freaking out if he found out. And he did end up finding out because they did a little article on something that I did, and it was in a town paper, and I can't believe that he even saw it but somebody showed it to him.
Wow.
And he kind of threatened me, and I said to him, do you want me to quit? And he couldn't believe that I would pick that stuff over the work situation that I was in, but I would have. And what happened is I was fortunate enough that my boss ended up opening up his own place, and he didn't know what to think of what I did, because he did have a very church religious background, and he didn't realize that that's included in it.
Okay.
And he wasn't sure, but if it made me happy, he made the arrangements where he was very accepted about it. And then in the process, we moved into our fabulous place now, where it's right on a main road, and we're seen, and we don't have to stay hidden. So I can totally understand that concept. And I also have, even during COVID, I kept it to a very small level, you know, when you could open up and start doing things. But my development circle that I have in there, people laugh because I charge so little for that, and I do the same for my meditation night. But both of those are bringing like-minded people together, and I grow with the students.
Right.
And didn't you feel like I felt like a renewal of myself after that fabulous day?
Yeah, I really did as well, because when you have that collective energy and it's so supportive and loving, and like that high vibration of everybody really enthusiastic, and it really lifts you up. It really lifts you up.
And it was so beautiful because people that were a little farther along in their progression was so beautiful with the ones that were moving up, and so encouraging that you watch them grow. So even though we were the facilitators and the teachers per se, some of the people in the group did some really beautiful things with that.
And right, and because we made a combination of things. So with having a wellness day, we had people who wanted to come and maybe just do some meditation. Then we had people who were maybe experiencing some anxiety, or they're really sensitive, and they wanted to get some techniques on how to calm that anxiety. Then we were working with people that wanted to open up their mediumship powers, or intuitive powers, we'll say, when we did some little readings and connections. So because you have a little bit longer, where you're there for the day, you have the opportunity to have multiple things. So if somebody's not so much into meditation, they'll do it and they're like, oh, okay, but I really resonated a lot when we were doing the pendulum work, or we're connecting with crystals, or energy therapies, or wow, you know, I can't believe that I was doing a little mini reading with someone and I actually got a message for them. It just came into my mind, and then they were so excited that they were able to do that. So when you have a little more time, you're able to have the variety of things, and there's definitely going to be some area that someone is going to really take to. And have,
it was a beautiful thing. So I did the hypnosis, and then you brought on that beautiful program where they were connecting to energies and doing some healing on themselves.
Well, I wanted to include that because I noticed, of course, with the pandemic, we were going to have a spike with that. But it's really hard to incarnate and be so heightened physically, emotionally. It's hard to manage that sensitivity. So I had noticed over the past, even before the pandemic, a lot of people were really struggling with like feeling anxious and sort of isolating at home a little bit, and not going out into the world and doing things because they were having all this anxiety. So that's why I wanted to incorporate that in the day, because I have been studying a lot about that, like acupressure and just like actual little physical things that you can do, like when let's say you're going into a panic attack. Oh, okay, here's what you can do to start bringing it back down. Or if you're getting really stressed out because of a work situation, here's something that you can do physically, like different pressure points that will have an immediate effect. Because sometimes you don't have time to go and do a 2-hour meditation. I mean, that could be your daily practice. But if you're starting to spike, you want to be able to have something physically that's going to be able to just bring that energy back down. And you're like, oh, okay. Now I can carry on, complete my tasks, and I'm fine. So, and that's why I wanted to include that, because I had noticed through my readings that a lot more people were having problems with anxiety. And then when the pandemic hit, that
crazy.
Just really, the whole world
still is crazy.
With that static energy and that agitation. And so that was a real fun part too, that I hope people enjoyed it.
And it was fun to watch. One of the things that I love about teaching is it's so fun to watch the people working together and developing together.
Yes.
And it's just crazy. And there was a few friendships that were formed because of that they didn't know each other from Adam before the class.
Absolutely.
And,
we've been hearing that some people have continued after the workshop, after the retreat by the sea, our beautiful day, have continued being in communication. And I've two gals, they sent me an email. We've been going out for lunch and just talking about new things we want to learn. And so we're in the moment, but it's nice to hear about the after effects of it.
Well, and then I had one of the younger ones in the group that has taken classes at the Mind's Eye, and she's already been asking, when are we going to do another one? And she lives in Boston, so
nice.
is going to school in Boston, and she's got a lot on her plate. But she made arrangements to make sure that she was down there.
Okay.
We met at the Mind's Eye, and I took her in, and took her home, do you know what I mean, to the Mind's Eye where she got picked up. But it was one of those things where she was impressed. So the range from there was probably 20 to 70.
Yes. Yeah.
And everybody was thrilled with it. So it's something that we got to try to think about doing another one, and eventually I'd like to do like a two-night one, like in New Hampshire.
Okay.
But I think probably the next one will be another one there, because too many of those people are asking for it again, and I don't know whether some of them will be able to transport up to New Hampshire for a couple of days.
Like a wellness weekend.
Yeah, like a wellness weekend, because it is so nice, and I travel to do some of those. But I've traveled to do them, and it would be nice to have a few more closer by,
right,
and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it was one of the reasons why we started off just doing a day retreat.
Well, really, she slowed me down. She's the Taurus, I'm the Aquarius, with the Aquarius rising in the Gemini moon. So she gets me to settle down. I wanted to do the first one in St. Thomas.
Yeah. I'm like, wait a second here. This is our first one. Why don't we just do a day retreat first, and then we'll build our way up to maybe a weekend, maybe a 5-day.
But not me. I'm ready to dive right into the past. So she grounds me, and I get her out of the box. So that's part of our relationship.
Yeah.
And some of the setup that she had, I've taught for years, so I've got a million different things that I could bring to the table. But we had a meeting with it, and some of the stuff that I loved was just very refreshing because it was new, And I'm still taking classes. I'll be taking classes when I'm 80.
Right.
I'm still taking classes, so I do come up with some new stuff like that. But some of my regular classes might have been a little stale to some of them, where you brought in some new stuff. So we did some of my stuff, some of her stuff, some of Bob's stuff.
Right.
And it was just really, really a fabulous
because we
day.
had, a mixture of clients, people that I've seen for many years, people you've seen for many years.
Yeah.
So now it was great to get them all together.
And I have this great group of people that are regulars at my shop. And in a mediumship club, I did blindfold readings, and all of them decided that the face masks were better as blindfolds than the blindfolds. So I went hunting, and I finally found a box of the black ones so that you couldn't see through. We did the blindfold readings, and they loved that.
Which probably explained to people watching that they might not know.
Well, what you do is they did a pandemic face mask, but put it over their eyes. But it was just basically because they find it more comfortable as the blindfold than a blindfold. But in there, what we do is then people don't know who's standing in front of them, and so they're not overly focusing on eye expressions and facial expressions and stuff like that. And the other one couldn't answer any questions, just stayed very quiet. And it was pretty fabulous. I was walking around, and you were walking around, and hearing some of the stuff that they were coming out for, and it was so clean and clear because people already, first of all, we had a lot of people that didn't know each other, but also it just put it so that it just was a really good time.
And it was really nice to see people be so surprised, because they were like, wow, I can't believe I could do a reading. I didn't know I would hear a message from this person's deceased grandmother. So it was really cute. Like throughout the day, people were starting to get puffed up a little bit, like, hey, I can do it. I'm hearing things in my head. I never thought I had the ability to do it. So it was really cute when people were so surprised and they were getting excited,
Absolutely, absolutely.
It was really cool.
And I had and like I said, it was so great because I have some really cool people at my shop that had the blindfold readings and love it. And they say to me, when are we going to do it again? Are we going to do it at the next one? So that's what made me introduce it to there.
Yeah.
And seeing it with people at all different levels, because the level that we did the blindfold readings is usually at least a mediumship, whatever, midway, So they've got some abilities already. And this group like ranged from east to west. And it was a fabulous activity.
And then we had we had some lighthearted things that we did.
Picking colors, learning, seeing if they could come up with the color that you were holding behind a thing. And
just some lighthearted things like that. Like kind of focus your mind. And then I was holding up a color, a number. And what you're doing is you're just having an agreement with your guides. You're asking them, remove the paper, show me the number, show me the color, or just let me see through it. And so little quick things like that kind of jumpstart people's energy. And after we did a few of those, people were like, and then I had a picture, like draw what you're seeing, what kind of picture is it? And it was a starfish, and somebody saw that.
Yeah.
And then it was like a green number 9, and somebody was like getting the color, and another person got the number. And so little quick things like that are really fun.
Absolutely.
Before you get into doing a little bit of a longer reading,
right?
Or, our pendulums.
Absolutely.
That was really fun.
Yeah.
Like, because I had a few people that are like, oh, I've never worked with a pendulum before. And it's just amazing how it works. Right away, you ask the question, right away, it's going to start moving, give you the answer, yes or no. And I could see people like, I can't believe this. I just asked this pendulum a question, and it's answering my question, and it's moving on its own. It's not like I'm moving my hand. The energy is moving that crystal, and it's telling me the right answer. Daisy, how does this work? How is this happening?
Absolutely. And I had at the Mind's Eye, I was working with another girl that was more in the detective range, and so I said she was the armchair medium and the real detective, and I was the armchair detective and the real medium. And she came up with this fabulous idea where we used pendulums on a map to find out where the bodies were hidden. And we went up to New Hampshire, and they had the cadaver dogs and stuff. And
psychic detective.
Yeah, and they found 2 bodies. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there was a lot more bodies in there, but it's hard to get them to do it. Do you know what I mean? Because they don't really like that psychics are controlling them, or getting them to do it. The chiefs of police were very into our help. Once you had to get into the state troopers and cold cases and stuff, they're nervous because they got to go in front of the judge, and they really, but we got them to do it, and it was very, very cool.
Right.
But it was a student of mine that said, let's try the pendulum on a map. And we knew the general area we were working with because we knew where she disappeared, and was sitting there doing it. And we went down there to check it out after we did it before I called in the state troopers, and I actually saw the woman. Do you know what I mean? As clear as I'm seeing you. So it was pretty fabulous.
So you solved a couple of those cold cases?
Yeah, well, actually, I solved a couple of those cold cases. That one, they needed to go deeper into the woods, but once they found 2 bodies, they didn't want to play anymore.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? So, and then COVID hit after that, so I couldn't nag. And a lot of the chiefs that worked with me have retired now. But I managed to help close a couple of cold cases that a couple of them didn't want to retire because the cold cases weren't closed.
Right. They want to solve those before.
And then I worked individually. Sometimes I worked with the one that we found 2 bodies that weren't hers, but she had said she was 1/8 of a mile in. They found the 2 bodies like 500 feet different, but I couldn't get them to go.
Wow.
But it was very, very cool.
Did you ever think that you might want to get aligned with a few police departments and
I have
get
been
more
working
into
a little
that?
bit on it. They're becoming more open as time goes on.
Right.
But New England isn't the place. The West Coast is really cool.
Yeah.
So once in a while I get a person that sends me something and I see if I get anything.
Okay.
And that kind of stuff, but it's hard. But I did have another case in New Hampshire because they're much more open to it than.
Well, that's the thing. We're always met with that resistance.
And you have a few people that come to you, but it's going to be done very hush-hush and under the table, But this other one was a young man that had passed, and that they didn't know if he was alive or not, but he was missing. And when I first got the case, that night he was still alive. And so I was trying to push it, and it wasn't much time before I knew he had passed. It was very sad to me because it was a 19-year-old kid, so it was upset. But I did get the information, and they kept trying to find the body. And I said, all of a sudden, Spirit talked through my mouth and said, go on the left-hand side of the road, 900 feet forward on the left-hand side, there's a deserted barn, and he slid down the inside wall, and that's exactly where they found him.
Oh, okay.
So Spirit is pretty cool.
Absolutely.
But I was feeling so bad for the parents, and that cold case that I was working on that I wanted them to solve, I was feeling bad for the father.
So it might be a little intense if you did more of that.
I have to be careful,
Yeah.
but Daisy knows I'm a doggy, kitty, animal person.
Yeah.
So they tried to get me to work on some cases of missing dogs. I cry for a week. I'm better.
You're definitely an animal person, so that would be hard. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm all right with the cold cases that you already know they were dead, but that kid devastated me because he was alive, and I was wondering if I could figure it out sooner, or would I have been, do you know what I mean? And you question stuff like that.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden, being a parent, it's very sad for you knowing that a parent just lost a 19-year-old,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
And so it was pretty crazy. It was pretty crazy.
Well, that's the thing, like with the type of work we do, you sort of have to be careful that you don't get overloaded because, well, you know how I work, I'm very, very physical. Like I just feel everything, hear everything, feel everything. Whereas you go a little bit into the cerebral processing more.
Yeah.
So, because we've talked about that, like I'll have some real intense readings, like one after the other, and you're like, Daisy, I would kill myself. I just don't want to, feel like that the intensity of someone's whole life every day. So that's why you like to mix it up with classes and workshops and.
Right. So I love my favorite week would be if I did a hypnosis, I did a Reiki, I did a group of readings, and I taught 2 classes.
Yeah, you like to mix it up.
I'm in heaven a week like that.
Yes.
So, and I actually, the last week I've had that, and I just absolutely love it. So it's, and I have a week coming up the second weekend in December, where on Friday I'm doing readings, on Saturday I'm doing like a house party, on Sunday I'm teaching, on Monday I'm doing a psychic dinner, and I'm pretty much running the stuff. So I like it like that. So
whereas I'm used to just like really being in my reading room, one person. We're doing channel messages. We're doing messages from loved ones, spirits, and then we got to do their whole life reading and challenges that they have. And so if you're doing those one-on-one readings at that real like heightened level, like I'll be this high for the whole day. And so when I leave work, I have to remind myself, okay, you got to get back on this side, girl. You have to drive home. You have to be in the earth plane. Where when I've been like spending most of the day on the other side, because I just want to help people. I love people. I don't want to help people. So it will take a while when you're doing those one-on-one intense sessions to bring it back down and be able to be
I have the opposite,
in the earth plane. But you're saying that you're not going to that intense place of feeling. You're just like thinking about it, but not letting it get.
Well, what happens to me
your
is
whole
when I
physical being.
When I do mediumship readings at the shop, and I love the just mediumship readings. I actually love doing those where
just
no tarot cards, just messages.
Yes, you like to do those quick messages. You were telling me
I love doing that. So anyway, but I also have a setup. I have running water, a guide, and when I come up the second step of the mind's eye, because I used to go from my accounting world and controller of a company to do the readings, so I had to flip really quick. So I laughed because Daisy had come in a half an hour before, Larry would come in an hour before, and I'd be sitting in the parking lot 5 minutes before,
Your client's there before you are.
Yeah, so I walk up the second step, and running water helps me take my brain from the left to the right side, or reminds me to do it. Do you know what I mean? It helps me with it. And when I leave, flips me the other way and clips any cord so I don't wake up the next morning to all the people's loved ones in my bedroom. So I have a setup in that. Now I have found when I have a couple of places one in particular that I love to do at Saltitudes in Lincoln,
Okay.
Rhode Island. I love to do the group mediumships. And because of COVID, we switched it to 2 groups of 6. And I absolutely love it because if you do 12 people and the person got the first reading, by the 12th person's reading, they're fidgety, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So this puts 6 and 6, so it's really cool. So they see you getting other people's stuff and
So you'll have a group of 6 people and just do some channeled messages from
Yes.
guides, loved ones.
and I do them for about an hour,
Oh, okay.
hour and 15 minutes,
okay,
and then
yeah.
I have a little bit of a break in between when the next group comes in, and then I
Right.
do another one.
Okay.
So when I do those 2 back to back, I chit chat with PJ for a while and get my feet on the ground. Do you know what I mean? It's because I have to drive home
Yeah,
too
you gotta get yourself
from
back into
Lincoln,
it. Right.
Lincoln to Warwick. I'm not a true Rhode Island. I'll go anywhere, believe me. But like a Rhode Islander all the way from Lincoln to Warwick.
Yeah.
But I want to get my feet on the ground before I do
so you
that.
can kind of focus what
Absolutely,
you're doing, yeah.
absolutely. And I'm laughing because I said I could just ask Ron. I wanted to do what he does at my shop.
Yes, yeah.
But I didn't think of that until I just talked to you. So my grounding foundation, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I realized
But I had to
then,
remind myself to do that because sometimes if you're working all day and you're so high talking in spirit, like there's so much happening, so much energy you're seeing, hearing, feeling, and then you have to make sure you're interpreting it correctly. You want to make sure that you're giving the person accurate information, and so you're so high for hours on end that I remember years ago I left work and I was just sky high and I was like, wow, I'm in my driveway. I don't even remember, how did I get here?
well, I laughed because
What happened?
one of my students opened up her own place, so I volunteered to go in and get some traffic to come in. Do you know what I mean? So I went in there to do it, and everybody kept me, and they kept having me in that space and asking questions afterwards. And then they needed to lock up because one of the owners of the place needed to get up like at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, okay.
So they locked up. And I was like, I've lived in Warwick for all but 1 year of my life. And I had to call my husband and ask where I was, because when I left there, I was so high that, high on life, that I
You were
just
just
circled.
driving
I just
around.
circled around, and I was trying to go to Kohl's at the mall, which was a whole 5 minutes from where I did the thing, and I ended up back in the neighborhood, and I didn't know where the heck I was.
Right.
But Spirit was also doing another thing too, because I ran into a client, and I got a message which helped them to catch their son before he committed suicide. It was one that they came to me quite often with regular readings, but it was a real strange thing where she bumped into me and she said, I'm worried about him, and I said, text him.
Yeah.
And then they called me afterwards and they texted him, and they actually could tell by his voice. They called him and texted him.
They could tell
And they
he
could
was
tell, and they
in
got him there
distress.
and got him in hospital
Oh,
in
thank
time.
goodness,
But it was
yeah.
just a weird thing the way the whole thing went down. So I was
Right.
still in the mediumship mode in Kohl's, and then there it
Right.
happened. But anyway.
Yeah, that's why I don't like to go out right after work, like if there's a group, because you're going to be, like when I'm not at work, I'm not going to be intrusive and go up and start giving someone messages.
Me neither.
So if I go out after and I'm around a group, they're everywhere. So
Yes.
you can't really just focus and talk to the person because they're like, oh, tell them this, tell her this. So I always give myself time to come down before.
If anybody wants to get a hold of Daisy, you can go through me, the Mind's Eye, 401-465-8400, or send a message, and I can connect you with her. And if anybody has any ideas or interest in our next wellness, I would love to hear from you, because we're looking forward to doing more of those.
Yes.
And I get her doing group things, and I love it.
Yes, another great year at the Mind's
I
Eye.
know, absolutely.
Another fabulous year.
Excellent.
And we're heading for another one, 2024.
You got it, baby.
Yep.
You got it.